Kyle Busch built one of the greatest careers NASCAR has ever seen, but his story ended in a way nobody could have predicted. At just 41 years old, the two-time Cup Series champion was gone, and his older brother Kyle Busch was left trying to understand how an ordinary illness could turn into an unimaginable tragedy. For decades, Kurt and Kyle had been more than brothers. They were competitors, teammates, rivals, and two of the most recognizable names in NASCAR. They grew up racing in Las Vegas, pushed by their father Tom, and eventually became one of the most successful sibling combinations in the sport. By 2026, their relationship had entered a completely different chapter. Kurt had stepped away from full-time racing and was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. In one of the year's most meaningful moments, Kyle stood beside his brother and helped celebrate the achievement. Neither could have known how important that moment would become. Only months later, everything changed. Kyle had reportedly been dealing with what appeared to be a sinus infection while competing at Watkins Glen. He continued racing, won a Truck Series event at Dover, attended an event with his young son Brexton, and prepared for the Coca-Cola 600. From the outside, there was little indication that something catastrophic was developing. Then came May 20th. While testing a racing simulator in North Carolina, Kyle became seriously ill. He experienced breathing problems, overheating, coughing, and eventually became unresponsive. He was rushed to a hospital, but his condition deteriorated rapidly. The following day, Kyle Busch died. The family later explained that severe pneumonia had progressed into sepsis, creating a chain of devastating complications. For Kate, the speed of the tragedy was almost impossible to process. One moment, his younger brother was still racing and planning the future. Days later, Kurt was grieving someone he had spent his entire life competing beside. Kurt eventually broke his silence publicly, sharing photographs of the brothers and remembering a relationship that went far beyond trophies and championships. Later, during an emotional NASCAR documentary appearance, Kurt struggled to hold back tears while talking about Kyle's role as a father and his dreams of eventually racing alongside his own son. That may be the detail that hurts the most. Kyle wasn't simply thinking about his records anymore. He was thinking about Brexton's future. He wanted to remain involved long enough to potentially compete against his son, just as he and Kurt had once followed their own father's path into racing. And the career Kyle left behind was extraordinary. He finished with 234 combined victories across NASCAR's 3 National Series, 2 Cup Championships, and 63 Cup Series wins. He wasn't simply successful. He was one of the most dominant drivers of his generation. Now Kurt carries the memories of both the victories and the final days. Perhaps that's why his emotional reaction has resonated so deeply with NASCAR fans. He isn't only mourning a champion. He's mourning his little brother, the person who shared his childhood, his dreams, his arguments, his victories, and his entire journey into racing. Kyle Busch's career ended far too soon, but his legacy remains enormous. And for Kurt, the hardest part may not be remembering what Kyle accomplished. It may be remembering everything they still believe they had time to do together.